I'm Adrian Laurie, licensed professional counselor and professional life coach, and this is Keys to Change, where I offer you concepts and techniques for personal transformation. The topic of today's episode is free will versus determinism, 3 simple hacks to liberate your mind. I'm going to solve once and for all, in under 10 minutes, mind you, the most pesky problem that troubles modern minds when it comes to the issue of human freedom and agency, which is this. If the universe operates in accordance with scientific laws, then how can it be that I have any real choices in life? So if you're troubled by this problem, I hope you'll listen through to the end because I think you're going to find the solution that I offer to be novel and also very satisfying. So, the philosophical problem is typically expressed in the form of a question. What causes a person when making a choice to choose one path rather than another? If we don't propose some underlying physical cause of a person's choices, then wouldn't we be saying that this aspect of human behavior is just random? So let me answer these questions straightforwardly, but these answers are likely to be unsatisfying because of biases that are locked into many modern minds, and those are what I'm going to deal with in the main portion of this episode. But the straightforward answer to the question, the first question, what causes a person when making a choice to choose one path rather than another, is that person does. That person is the cause of the choice that that person makes in any given situation. I am the cause of the choice that I make when facing any given choice. Now, the second part of the question, but then, Adrian, are you saying that it's just random? Which I've heard so many times in this conversation. That's actually very revealing, I think, of the biases that I've mentioned. The answer to the question about random is no. Random is not an appropriate word to use to describe human agency. Random means, and this is just a dictionary definition, but I think it's serviceable. Random is defined as without purpose or pattern. But when I make a choice, in doing so, I am setting the purpose from among the available options that will govern or determine what is to come. Purpose comes from somewhere, and we humans, we have a hand in setting purpose in our lives through the choices that we make. Okay, but like I say, I have found that these simple and straightforward answers typically meet with a kind of knee-jerk resistance or antagonism. And so this is where our 3 hacks are going to come in. And those are history, psychology, and forensics. And now, before I get to those, just a very brief plug. You can visit my website at adrianlaurie.com or by following the link in the description if you'd ever like to set up a private counseling or coaching consultation with me. Okay, now 3 hacks: history, psychology, and forensics. The first hack is history. So let's look at some relevant history. In the 1600s, the human understanding of practical mechanics was just starting to develop in an impressive way. There were significant advances in clockmaking at that time that led to much improved precision in clocks. The very first robots, or automatons as they were called, which were not really utilitarian robots, but just these sort of amusing mechanical dolls that moved in certain ways, these were like all the rage. A doll that moves seemingly of its own accord, right? Like it was like amazing. The philosopher and mathematician René Descartes, who you might remember from high school math, the Cartesian coordinate plane, you remember the x-axis and the y-axis? That was Descartes. But he was also an important philosopher. He had one of these dolls. And of course, a little bit after Descartes, Sir Isaac Newton, was identifying basic laws of physics. And those eventually had very powerful applications in engineering and technology. This new power to understand and control physical reality was, we have to assume, and understandably so, intoxicating. And this takes us into hack number 2, which is psychology. human beings like having some control in life. Some human beings really like it. Or another way to say that is some human beings really dislike not having control. And you know who you are. But all of us like having at least a little bit of control. So a view of reality that extends principles of physical mechanics to all of being has a lot to recommend it from that point of view, because it says that reality is completely predictable. We may not understand everything about it yet, but it is ultimately, utterly predictable. And this is now where hack number 3 comes in, forensics, because we don't want to just completely psychologize this issue. There is a genuine epistemological problem with generalizing physical mechanics to all of being, and that is, it's not realistic. It's not objective, and that is to say it's not scientific, which, by the way, neither Descartes nor Newton generalized physical mechanics to all of being. Both of them saw it as an aspect of reality, not the whole of it. But, okay, that aside, science is about observation. It is decidedly not about imposing a doctrine or worldview on experience. It's about starting with experience or observation and formulating principles on that basis. And there's a huge observed contradiction to the worldview that says the whole universe is physical mechanics. And that is the experience of human choice. And now we might also assume certain complex systems other than human beings, like the weather, to take just one example, may also not be deterministically mechanical in their functioning. But we don't need to go there. On a philosophical level, to poo-poo the experience of human choice and say, yes, but there must be an underlying physical cause, is to intellectually impose a materialistic, mechanistic framework on all of existence. And that's not appropriate, and on a philosophical level, it's arbitrary. Let's address the issue of materialism philosophically. This is the premise that the basic constituents of existence are physical, and everything stems from the physical. From a purely logical point of view, we could say that the physical universe must either have a beginning or not have a beginning. But if the physical universe has a beginning, then what is the context of that beginning? There's no such thing as a beginning out of nothing in a purely material world. And yet if the universe has no beginning, then that means it has been operating for all of eternity. And what exactly is eternity? Well, I'll tell you. Eternity means timelessness. And what we're dealing here with is the fact that, because I don't know if that this may sound like sophistry, what I just said, but that's not my intent. We're dealing here with the fact that consciousness, or spirit if you prefer, or the timeless dimension if you prefer, is really an inescapable fact of life. You just can't get away from it. We wouldn't be able to conceptualize matter unless there was an immaterial context from which to differentiate matter. Similarly, we couldn't conceptualize time unless there was a timeless context from which to differentiate time. Now, this is all very abstract, but I'm referring to something here that is so basic, we don't typically put it into words, but it is something that all infants experience intensely, which means you've experienced it intensely. You were an infant once. I was an infant once, allegedly. And you can see it in their eyes, although they obviously don't have the words for it yet. You can see it in adults' eyes as well, to varying degrees. But it's this, that ultimately there is a mystery, and it's a mystery that we behold with wonder and awe at the root of being itself. Can't get away from that. So, problem solved, huh? Yeah, and in under 10 minutes, that's not so bad. Okay, you're welcome to let me know your thoughts in the comments. I welcome, by the way, your criticisms or critiques. I also might suggest that as these ideas percolate within you, notice any positive changes that might occur. I'll be back with more soon, And until then, be well. Again, you can visit me at adrianlaurie.com or by following the link in the description if you'd ever like to set up a private counseling or coaching consultation with me. And thank you for listening.